Well, thanks again, everybody, for joining us. Today's session will be a reasonably quick one. We appreciate that your time is valuable, so try and give you as much as we can. We will have opportunity to have a bit of a chat later on in the session as well. We'll be asking some questions and just get you thinking a little bit about any project ideas that you might have in mind. But just before we do kick into everything, my name is Fiona, or Fee. I'm the Program Officer on the Nutrien Ag Solutions Community Grants Program. And we are joined today by the Program Manager, Danielle Griffin, as well as, and I think the lovely Maddie Muirhead from Nutrien will be joining us as well. She's just having a few technical issues at the moment, but she will be joining us soon. I will ask everybody if you can keep yourselves on mute throughout the session. But like I said, when we do open for discussion, please feel free to take yourself off mute and have a chat and raise any questions or and join in the conversation. The session, as you've figured, will be recorded and it will be available online probably tomorrow, in honesty. If not later this afternoon, so you can access that and revisit it. And also, if you've got any questions that are burning in your mind, please feel free to include them in the chat. Danielle will answer them for you as we go, and we'll also create a Q&A from your questions and a discussion that we'll send out with the link to the recording as well, just so you've got a bit of a cheat sheet on what we do go over. So Dan, can you move on to the next slide for me, please? I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to their elders past, present and emerging. I also, in this picture here that you can see on the slide, I thought it might be nice to include this picture that you see is a popular watering hole near my home in the Tunarong land, just outside of the Bendigo region. So this is Turpin Falls on the Campaspe River in Metcalfe, a very, very pretty part of Victoria. So today, like I said, we do have a little bit to go over, but we'll go through as thoroughly for you as we can, and encourage you to ask questions as they come up. But in short, we'll be going through introductions. So which we've already really done, introduction of myself and Danielle. We'll go over the Nutrien Ag Solutions Community Grants Program, what the program is, how much funding is available, timelines for the program and such. We'll have a chat with you as well about applying for grants and give you some tips and guidelines and pointers that you can refer to, and we'll open to questions again at the end of the session as well. We do encourage everybody, like I said, to have a think. If anything pops up, please do feel free to include it in the chat or ask us in the questions segments of the session. So I will just actually, jump in here. We do have a little bit of a poll that we are running from today's session, and I will just get that up and running for you now. Actually, Dan, can you jump into that?
I can do that.
Well? Sorry, yeah.
Done.
Thank you. So our first question is, how did you hear about today's session? It's been a little bit of promotion from both us and from Nutrien about the program, so we're just keen to hear how you've heard about us. The next question as well is how confident you are in writing a grant, assuming that there will be a lot of people here that have applied for grants before, but there may also be some new kids on the block, so to speak. And finally, of course, what is your goal for today's session? What are you hoping to get out of today? It's good to see that your Nutrien branches have been having a chat with you. You've been out and about talking to your community, which is fabulous.
Okay, we've got 16 responses, which probably is all considering myself, you and Maddie. So I'll end the poll there and I'll just share the results on the screen.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, will we go on?
Lovely, thank you. Like I mentioned before, my name is Fiona. I'm with the FRRR team, and some of you may have heard of us. We've been around for a little bit, but our mission is connecting goodwill with good purpose for the vitality of remote, rural and regional communities in Australia. So that's communities like yours. We've been operational now for over 20 years, and have run a number of programs in communities. So we do support only rural, regional and remote communities. And our focus is really on supporting grassroots community organisations to make a difference in your community and help your community come together and, you know, identify issues and make it basically a better place for you guys to live, give you access to some funding that may not necessarily be available. So in introducing the organisation, like I said before, there's myself. I'm the program officer for this particular program, and I will be your key contact throughout the process. So if you've got any questions, my contact phone number is on all of the marketing material that you've seen. So please feel free to touch base, and if you've got any questions, just float them past me. And also joining us as well is my wonderful program manager, Danielle Griffin, who has a long-standing background in this community space, so which is wonderful. And now I'd like to take this opportunity to actually hand over to the lovely Maddie Muirhead. Maddie is the Nutrien contact for this particular program, and she's the corporate affairs coordinator. So Maddie, if you're online there, do you want to pop in and say g'day?
Yeah, hi everybody, good afternoon. So like Fee said, my name's Maddie. I'm the Corporate Affairs Coordinator for Nutrien. Did you want to keep sharing?
Sorry.
Oh, I just wanted to show everyone your lovely face. Maddie?
Oh God, thank God I put makeup on today.
You don't need it.
No, that's all good, Danielle. So yes, this is me, I'm Maddie. A quick little bit of background about me, just so you kind of understand where I'm coming from. I've grown up in a pretty rural background. I've grown up in a lot of small community towns across mainly South Australia and the Northern Territory. However, now I'm based on a farm down in Tasmania with my husband and 8-month-old daughter. So, really embedded in the community side of things. So my role at Nutrien is the Corporate Affairs Coordinator, which under that falls the Nutrien Community Grants Program. Nutrien has been a part of rural Australia for more than 180 years now in a few different versions, but we are now Nutrien Ag Solutions, nice, bright and green. And we have a footprint across Australia of more than 700 locations. We've got generations of experience all across the business, which has really made us experts in a range of different farming areas, including precision farming, marketing livestock, wool, ag services, water, finance, merchandise and real estate. So we've sort of got a finger in every rural pie we possibly have. But you know, outside of all of that and you know, the branch in the merchandise world is that we really do understand that it's not just about the farmers and the tractors in the paddock or the cattle in the yards, the sheep in the yards. It's actually also really about the communities and the families that are behind the farmers and agriculture and our industry. So we are really striving to go beyond just, you know, supporting our farms. We really, really want to support our communities. And that's where the Nutrien Ag Solutions Community Grants Program comes into it. So by partnering with FRRR, we're wanting to provide funding for meaningful community projects from the local grassroots organisations that really are the heartbeat of the rural and regional Australia. You know, they are the ones that really do truly support us, you know, in so many ways. We'll flick to the next slide quickly, Danielle. Thank you. So you'll see a picture of me looking a bit more glowing. I had much better lighting there than I do today. Mm-hmm. So then also, yeah, it's like I said, I'm the Corporate Affairs Coordinator. I coordinate this program basically. However, I work really closely with our Nutrien branch managers who also play a really massive role in this program. So I know Danielle and Fee will talk a little bit more about their role and the application process later on. So I won't go into too much detail, but I will, sorry, Danielle, I will just quickly talk about our branch manager's role just to hopefully give a really clear understanding. So as part of the application process, our branch managers must endorse your projects. So this means that once you've identified your project is eligible, we want you to reach out to your local Nutrien Ag Solutions branch manager or Nutrien Ag Solutions partner or JV, sorry, I should say. We've got a few different names there. So yeah, reach out to your local branch managers and just have a bit of a chat with them about your project. We're not asking our branch managers to judge your project or to tell you, yes, you'll win, yes, no, you won't, or, any of that kind of stuff. But we want you to be able to have a chat with them, and they in turn will be able to say to you, this project sounds like it's going to create great benefit. It really aligns with what our program is wanting to do. And they're going to then endorse that project. And through endorsing it, they'll provide you a letter of endorsement to include in the application. So yeah, again, Danielle and Fee will talk more about this later, but the applications won't be eligible if there isn't an endorsement. So yeah, reach out to our branch managers. They all know this is happening and they're all really, really keen. We had great feedback from them last year. They love being involved in their communities. So they're all really excited to be hearing about your projects next year. But in saying that too, just for everybody, if the branch manager isn't quite sure, or they don't feel they can endorse your project immediately, never fear. Reach back out to the FRRR team. They'll be able to support you all a bit, because we've got to understand too, the branch managers have got a fair bit on their plate, so sometimes can't understand sort of all the eligibility as well as we do. So yeah, definitely make sure you reach out to them, have a bit of a chat, talk to Fee and Danielle. Yeah, so that's kind of a quick brief overview of my role and the branch manager role in the program. And before we hand on and get into it, are there any questions around Nutrien or anything that anyone would like to ask me? Or not? If we don't have any, I'm happy to hand back over to Fee and Danielle, because I suspect they'll bring out a lot more questions as we keep going on. But yeah, I'm Maddie, I'm from Nutrien. If there is anything I can be helping you guys with about the program, feel free to yell out to me. So
I'm just going to say quickly, there's a question there around IRCF funding. We will answer that later on, and we may need to get some clarity on your organisation specifically. So just letting you know that I've read your question, and we will either come back to you specifically or address it later on in the presentation.
Thanks, Danielle. Thanks, Maddie.
We'll go forward. Okay.
So this is round 2 of the program. The program launched last year, and it launched with a bang. It was a well-subscribed round, and we were able to award 57 grants for just over $250,000, and that supported investment of just under $1 million into rural communities. So projects were valued within their community at just under $1 million, which was a fantastic achievement for those communities that were able to come home with some cash, really. The program itself this year is running. As you know, the program is open. It started on the 12th of July. Applications close at 5 o'clock Australian Eastern Standard Time on the 12th of August. On the 12th of August. So $250,000 is available again, with grants up to $5,000. So grantees that are successful, applicants that are successful, will be notified in late October of the outcome of the program. So both successful and unsuccessful applicants will get notification, and applicants that are unsuccessful are actually invited to touch base with us. We're keen to support our communities as much as we can, and that's not just funding grants, but it's also providing support and just different tips and pointers on what could have maybe helped with a better outcome for our applicants. So some examples from our program from last year. The first one that I'll offer you is the Pennyshore Progress Association. So Pennyshore in South Australia, they had, with ongoing drought in their community, they'd lost a lot of services, including medical services. So the community centre, the Progress Association and the Penny-Shaw CWA joined forces and pulled together a project to help make the community centre more accessible for to offer those medical services that are super important in communities. The project itself is still underway, but the ladies out there have made a fantastic impact already for their community. The next one I'll move on to is restoring ghost signs in Woodstock. So the Woodstock Progress Association, a beautiful little village, had some old signage that was, you know, gotten a little bit tired over the years. And just to refresh their streetscape a little bit, invest a little bit more interest in the community, and for visitors to, you know, try and encourage people to stop in town and, you know, maybe have a coffee or stop at the pub, or, you know, have a bit of a chat and stop in and see what's on offer in the community. So the program itself is actually really diverse in the offerings that it supports. So these are two examples of projects from the past that are also aligned with this year's program. So we'll move on. Yes, it's just a touch on again. So the program closes on the 12th of August at 5 o'clock. $250,000 is available for grants up to $5,000, and it is a national program. So like Maddie said, part of the program is to touch base with your Nutrien branch manager and seek their endorsement. So, and just quickly too, have we got any Nutrien staff or Nutrien branch managers on the session today?
Doesn't look like it.
No, it doesn't look like it. That's all right. I'll touch base with these guys later and just remind them to encourage them to include any information in the letter of support that, you know, that they feel is beneficial for your project in your community, for any projects that you have. So what can be funded under the program? Delivering and providing activities, events and programs. So community celebrations or you know, festivals or things like that bring the community together. They also may generate tourism opportunities in your township. But the primary thing is really giving the community opportunity to come together and celebrate and, you know, potentially reinvest a little bit more money in town. Purchasing and hiring equipment. Sorry, Dan.
Oh, sorry.
Back for me. That's okay. Purchasing or hiring of equipment and materials. So sometimes, you know, you might need to hire a bobcat for some earthwork that you're doing, or, you know, tables and chairs for an event that you're holding. So, you know, these funds can be used to do that. Community infrastructure projects. You know, it's not uncommon for us to see applications for mowers for around halls and things, or, you know, air conditioning or solar, or, you know, even playgrounds and parks. So, you know, things to upgrade those facilities for communities. Organisational capacities. So things like, you know, strategic planning for your organisation as well can be supported. You know, things that are going to help your organisation be stronger in delivering opportunities for your community, and developing community resources as well. So, and community resources is not just a document, but for us, it's more importantly the people in your community, and how we can help develop the skills and capabilities that they can bring to your organisation to, you know, create some opportunity for your town. Eligibility. So the same with all of our programs, not-for-profit organisations. So whether you have an ABN or an incorporations number, but you must be for a not-for-profit organisation. The project itself must be deemed as charitable for public benefit. So if you've got any questions around that, we'll talk about that later on in the session as well. But if you've got any questions where you're not quite sure, please feel free to reach out. We're here to help. So, and not just myself, but all the staff on the phones here at FRRR are able to answer any questions about charitability. One application per round for each organisation. and the project itself must be for the benefit of rural, regional and remote communities. And grantees that were successful in round 1 of the program are ineligible to apply in this round. Thanks, Dan. Things we cannot fund, so ongoing core costs. So, you know, if something's, for example, a government's responsibility to pay for the safety of a footpath, or, you know, operational costs for your organisation are your core costs, then it's something that we wouldn't consider. But if it was for something that was outside, if you were doing a project that was outside of what you would ordinarily do, then the potential is there. Prizes, gifts, trophies and awards, things like that, we can't support. And projects that have already occurred, this is an important one. So if you've already done something and paid for something, the project itself is not eligible to be funded. It needs to be something that's coming up, something in the future that we can support. Projects that are delivered outside of Australia are not eligible. Political parties, lobby groups and religious promotion is not eligible. But I will touch briefly on religious organisations themselves. We recognise the important role that churches play in a lot of communities, whether it be the church hall or whether it be you know, an arts and crafts group or a book club or something that the church hosts. If you can demonstrate in the application that the project is for a broad community benefit, then the potential is there for it to be considered. Another one as well is sporting activity. So sporting activity is not considered a charitable activity by the Australian government and the charity law. So we can't support sports for sport's sake. So now I'm actually going to open up to you guys as well. And I'm going to ask, Maddie actually posed this question, is what would you do with a $5,000 grant in your community? So no doubt some of you have already got projects in mind. Some of you may have even already started. You may just be looking for extra funding for a project that you're doing, but we're really keen to have a chat with you and really understand, you know, have you got any project ideas? What are you thinking about? Who have you spoken to in town about what you can do? So, I had a phone call from a gentleman yesterday who was looking at a project for his recreation reserve. They were looking at doing, you know, a few repairs on some bits and pieces in there. So does anybody else have anything? What projects have you guys got that you're thinking about? What have you got, Jenny?
We're getting quotes for picnic tables, wheelchair accessible picnic tables for the area around the hall. Or we have a monthly village market. It's only for locals to use. And the monthly market's really important to get, especially the oldies all come together once a month, and there's somewhere for them to sit and rest, which there's not at the moment.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's the type of projects that we've supported, you know, across FRRR, but it's definitely eligible in this program as well. So that activity.
Mm.
So
Hilary in the chat has mentioned that she has one for a shade structure over the mud kitchen at her local kindergarten.
Yep.
Rod, do you have a question there?
I did, thank you. I've got a couple of different projects in mind, but I'm just wondering, is doing a website upgrade to make it more sort of client focused and give it a bit of a refresh, would that sort of fall under the guidelines? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's really about the broad community benefit and outcome of that project. You know, that's really what we're looking at, is what you're looking at doing and how it will benefit your community.
Yeah, okay.
So, you know, if it increases access and builds your audience and informs people about important things to the community, then it's definitely an eligible project.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
We've also got a project, a new freezer system for our community food bank through Nutrien. Once again, definitely something that is eligible. I think we've got a land care group. Look, it's really great. A ladies' long luncheon, map our local community. Sorry, that's the land care group. I'm just going to go back to that because I think I'm always interested in land care projects because we know what goes on with communities and how valuable they are. Mapping the local wildlife corridors. That's a really great project, and I think both the engagement in your community in that and understanding the broad community benefit is what we want, the story we would like to hear about there. Just as a really good example of something that's not eligible is sometimes when land care groups are working with landowners and the benefit is actually going to be to a small group of farmers or something like that. But this is definitely something that would seem to be impacting the broader community. Okay, a workshop to give information to build resilience in agriculture due to all the biosecurity risks around these days. That's a really interesting one, Kay, and I think it's probably good in regards to looking to that land care question in regards to where the benefit is. And I can understand from biosecurity, your benefit is not just to your growers, but it's also to the local economy. But it's really important to understand how you're engaging with your community and that broader community benefit in delivering that project. Just going back, I did mention the ladies' luncheon. Would you like to respond to that one, Fee, because you've dealt a lot with those kind of grant applications?
Yep, absolutely. Ladies' luncheon, I think I was actually looking at a past application, or might have even actually had a chat with you the other day about this one. Absolutely, it's something that we would look at, you know, and like Danielle said, with all of our projects, we're really looking to understand how your broader community is going to benefit from your project. Hilary, your question around schools, yes, schools are eligible to apply, but it's often easier if the P&C actually apply, because I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, P&C's function is to support the school in, you know, creating and enhancing the the educational environment for kids. So that would be my one tip would be to, if you apply under the P&C, it's probably easier.
Molly, I'd also respond to that living skills program that you've mentioned there.
Yeah.
Definitely that's eligible through this program with regards to you looking to support homeless people in your community, because we understand that, you know, if there's a real issue and there's increased risk or vulnerability in particular communities, particularly regional communities, getting behind them and looking at how you can improve them will actually benefit the whole community. I will also refer you to have a look at the ANZ Seeds of Renewal grant program, just because it has a specific theme around that area. And Jenny, you've spoken about a facilitator for a communications workshop, which is fine. We understand that you need to bring in expertise to support community development. So this grant is definitely eligible if you need to bring in professionals or consultants or support to do that. We obviously are really happy as long as they have local knowledge, or we see that real collaboration with those facilitators to ensure that the delivery of the information is local and is relevant to the audience.
Absolutely.
Alana, I can see that you're there with Hilary in your question about the school fate. It would depend on what you were looking at funding within the fate. So if you were looking at funding, say, like I don't know, a laser tag or some sort of activity for the kids to participate in, then the potential is there. But we can't provide fundraising activities that are specifically fundraising, you know, for the purpose of as just as a fundraising identity. It needs to identify that it is actually an activity. So whether it be, you know, if you need to hire some equipment marquees or you know, that type of thing, we could consider. So, but if you've got any questions about that, just reach out, you know, feel free to have a chat. Hilary, I can see that you've actually got your hand up now too. You got another question for us?
Oh, hi. Yes, sorry. Actually, that was a while back. I think I wanted to check if the mud kitchen was actually eligible, because you sort of said that it was there, but you didn't say, yes, that sounds like it would be eligible.
Oh, for the kindergarten?
Yeah.
The shade sale, yeah.
Yeah.
If you can demonstrate in the application how the broader community, the service that your kindergarten plays in your community, you know, and rather than just the children themselves and whatnot, just really emphasise how the broad community will benefit from that facility enhancement.
I think we really appreciate at the moment how tough it is everywhere, I think, in Australia. And particularly in regional Australia, the challenges that COVID and current economic conditions have on fundraising in your local area. You know, businesses are more challenged in regards to probably the sponsorship they can provide. And so, you know, I think really telling us the story of why you need it and how important it is. We also understand that, you know, kindergartens are a critical facility in communities, and ensuring that those facilities are well supported to provide children with optimum, you know, environments, and how a shade sale would do that, and what else happens there, and that ongoing kind of, you know, longevity of that, sustainability of that, you know, children participating in that for the, you know, for the next 5 to 10 years, is really a great story to share with us when you're writing your grant application.
Thank you.
Just to touch on, Alana, your question about your Meals on Wheels. Yeah, the potential is there. That's, you know, that's obviously support for people that really are in need in your community. So that's something that you could consider applying for as well. Jen, your question about shipping containers, potentially, yes. You know, depending on the facility that they're supporting, then that is supporting, then it could be considered as well.
You know, I think we've got some great project examples that have come up, and see, I think it would be really beneficial if you went and started just going to some of those key tips in regards to actually how you write your application to kind of, you know, tell us the most that is really aligned to this grant purpose.
Absolutely.
So feel free to tell me where to go, Fee.
Yeah.
In regards to how you want, which areas you want to talk about.
Yeah.
We'll just do a quick poll again. With regards to where everyone's at with these projects.
Thanks, Dan. That's really good. I'm really pleased to see how much thought you've all put into your projects already and come with something in mind. It just makes it so much easier. And
as Fee said, we will be sharing, we'll send you a Q&A on this, so you have those little bits and pieces of detail, and we hope that, you know, it's something that actually can support you with other thoughts around grants as well. Wonderful, great. Quick poll work there. Thank you.
So moving right along, we'll move into applying for a grant. So like Danielle said, and like you've all started, you've already got different thoughts in mind, and we've gone over a couple of the bits and pieces that you'll need for the application as well. But, you know, the first point a lot of you have already ticked is your project idea. What will you do? I can't reiterate enough and refer you to the program guidelines. Have a good read of that document, and if you've got any questions, again, reach out to myself or any of the staff here at FRRR. But if you come through to me, you know, I'm more than happy to help you. Your next point of contact is your branch manager as well. So that's another crucial piece, is make sure that you have spoken to your Nutrien branch manager and they have provided you with their endorsement. And it really is, they'll just flick you an email that basically says that they, you know, that you've had a chat with them and that they support the project. But we also encourage the branch managers too, that if there is any extra information that they want to add to that letter, that you know, the offer is there. We love to hear about the benefits that other communities, you know, that people from within the community see that your project will deliver. Again, ask questions, just ask. And it's super important as well, if you've got a question, ask it before you click submit. And then the application. So the application itself is all online through the FRRR website. And that's quite simple. You just, once you're reading through the Nutrien page, it actually guides you through, and then you've got your reply now. So everything is all online. So to, you know, to make things as easy for you as you can. If you do have any issues, again, just reach out. We're here to help. So there's really, the way we think about it, there's 4 stages to applying for a grant. So identify your opportunity. A lot of you have already done that, but the opportunity itself is not just the idea. We'll move into, from there, we'll move into preparing and planning. So knowing your project, then writing your application. And at the end of your application, once you've delivered your project, of course, you know, everyone who's had experience, there's the whole acquittal process. So we keep that as easy as we can for you, and just get as much information on, you know, what you did, any changes, any issues that you came across and such. So when we look at identifying opportunities, so there's sometimes in community, there may be opportunities to access other funding, but sometimes there isn't, and we completely recognise that. You know, other options to look at funding, government at state, federal and local level often have different granting programs, or, you know, they might have funds that council make you aware of that they've got that they want to spend. Local businesses, sometimes, you know, sometimes your local businesses have got money, but more often than not, they don't. And they, you know, they might have, you know, they might do some printing, or, you know, we've had organisations that have had in-kind support in doing landscaping at the town hall, or, you know, lots of different things. So it's not just about the money that businesses in your community can give you. More often than not, they're more than willing to give you a hand, and quite physically, that's a hand in doing something. So trying to alleviate some of those costs for you. Philanthropy, so some good resources that you can tap into for that. If you're not already, there's ourcommunity.com.au has a funding centre. There's the Grants Hub. There's quite a number of different organisations and websites that you can subscribe to that will send you regular updates on when information is available. And that's something that we do as well. If you're not already subscribed to the FRRR e-news, jump online when you're having a look at the program and subscribe to that. So we basically send out updates on, you know, pardon me, different programs that are available, when they're opening, when they're closing, and, you know, we celebrate community success stories and, you know, share news in that as well. Crowdfunding, there's lots of different platforms available for that, and also similar projects. So you might have a project that you're doing that someone, you know, in a nearby community has actually given you the idea. So, you know, you can get some ideas and information from them as well. When you're actually moving into your preparation and planning, it's really important that you can convey to us what you're going to do, but not only what you're going to do, why you're going to do it, who's going to be involved, how are you going to do it. So know what your tasks are, who's going to do different bits and pieces, you know, how are you going to pay for it. If there's, you know, if you're coming to us for $5,000 and your project's 15, how are you going to make up that other money? When will you do it? So like I mentioned before, retrospective funding we can't support, but if your project is in the future, you know, be clear on what your dates are going to be, where you're going to deliver it. So what township are you going to deliver it in? But more importantly, what's the community that's going to benefit from the program? So, you know, you might have a project for, you know, the kids to go to an excursion to Canberra, for example. You know, it might chip in for some funding support of that. So, you know, we really want to know about the township of the people that are going to benefit from the project. And how much, like I said before, if, you know, you're coming to us for a little bit of money, but your project's a lot, then be sure that you articulate in your application how you're going to get that other funding, or how that other fund is going to be covered. In there we have the, pardon me, actually I'll move through and I'll come back to that later. So if we move into the what, please, Dan. So solving an issue or creating an opportunity. So there might be something in town that you know that you have said is an issue. So Hilary, I think it was you said earlier that you have a Meals on Wheels service in your community, but you're having issues with accessing food. So you're looking to buy a freezer so that you can store that food and, you know, keep a supply available to provide to your community. So, you know, that's solving an issue or creating an opportunity. Similarly, it might be something that, you know, something's going through the region and, you know, you might want to host an event that you can piggyback off and create an opportunity for your community, to, you know, to get a little bit of, you know, whether it be tourism money or local fundraising or whatnot. So, so when you're actually going through what you're going to do in the project, make sure the idea considers the wider community. And when you're writing your application, be clear on getting that message across to us so that we know what you're going to do in the community. Another thing to think about is, can you connect in other groups with other groups in town that, you know, might piggyback on the idea or might be able to contribute something to it, whether it be, you know, to help out or, you know, to share a fundraising opportunity or whatever the situation might be. Just share that word. The why is it important for the community? So you need to, when you're writing the application, consider it, think of it as it really is a blank canvas. We don't know what's going on in your community, and we're relying on you to convey that information to us so that we can, you know, make an informed decision when we're looking at applications. So, you know, be clear on what's going on in town. Hilary, you were quite, you know, I refer back to your example before. You said that you were having issues with your Meals on Wheels, and it was clear that, you know, there was an issue there. So, you know, for that type of thing, you might want to consider as well, including how many people your service supports or, and that type of thing as well, so that we get a little bit more information to help us in our decision making. And same thing, the opportunity. So how does it address the opportunity and why does it address the opportunity in the community? The who. This is a big one in my mind anyway, because it comes in a lot of ways. It's not only who is going to benefit from your program, but what other supporters and partners can you have in town? Like I said, you know, you might have a collaboration. We had a collaboration in another program where a number of different organisations came together to do a history trail through their township and through the local cemeteries, which was a bit of a twist, but was something a bit quirky that created some interest. Volunteers, what volunteers are you going to have in program from within your organisation and also from within your community? The participants, so if it's an event or an activity, who's going to be involved in that activity itself, and also beneficiaries. So when we think of beneficiaries, that again comes back to who in your community is going to benefit from a project. Thanks, Dan. The how. So how are you going to make it happen? This sometimes, if you've got a big project, can be quite daunting, but for little ones, not so much. But, you know, if you look at your project, can it be broken down into stages, or does it need to be broken down into stages? It may not, so it may not be relevant, but, you know, it's always good to think that is this something that's going to be too overwhelming for us to do in one hit? And can we share the load a little? Tasks. So what are you going to do with it? What tasks do you have to do within that project to actually make that happen? Resources. So what resources do you need to deliver your project? Again, your resources is not just building equipment or materials or whatever, but your most valuable resource is your volunteers and your community, and that includes all of you. So, what resources are you going to need to do that as well? And then responsibility, who's responsible for what, to try and make things a little bit smoother, a little bit easier, and it doesn't all fall on one person's shoulder to deliver.
Sorry.
The when and where. So when will it happen? Again, only forward projects that are yet to happen can be funded. So if you were having an event, for example, that was part of a festival, then, be clear on what the dates were that festival was going to take place. Or workshops, what are the dates of the workshops? Do you have a guide? At this point, you may not have them locked in stone, but, you might have, between December and March, for example, that type of thing can be helpful as well. Where will it happen? Again, comes back to, where's that project going to take place, and where do the people that are going to benefit from that project live? So we'll move into now, how much will it cost? So the budget section in the application itself is quite simple. It's broken down into 3 components. So your income is in three portions. So the grant request. So how much money are you asking for from the program? How much money is your organisation going to contribute? And just to touch on that briefly too, that's not a mandatory requirement. If you haven't got money in your account to pay for a project, it won't be frowned upon if you can't contribute any money to the project. When we get your financials, we get that picture on what's happening, and particularly with coming out of the last few years, and we know how tricky it's been. So don't let that deter you. And other funders, council might have awarded you a grant to contribute to the project, or your local bank or whomever. There's space in the application to identify who those people are, how much they've provided, and also if that money's confirmed. Expenditure. So this part is equally as important. In your application, there is room to provide specific expenditure items, and we do ask you to do that. The reason we do that is so that we can confirm that what you're looking at spending your money on is actually considered as charitable under Australian charity laws. So if you can itemise that as much as you can, it is greatly appreciated. So again, that gives you the item and how much you're expecting to spend on it. Quotes or rationale. So we do ask for quotes for any items over $500, but we also appreciate that sometimes that can't happen. It might just be an email that you've gotten from someone about something. If you can provide a rationale for how you came up with the numbers that you've proposed in your application, we're happy with that. But we'd really ask that you articulate how you came to those numbers if you can't provide a quote. And then in kind, volunteer hours. So there's a calculation, the Australian government, I think it's actually gone up, but I can't remember, is currently at $41 an hour for volunteer hours. Don't we all wish we got paid that for the hours that we volunteered? So that's when you are working out, if you have 10 hours from a volunteer at your $41, then that's your simple calculation. Donated goods as well, and donated services. So you might get $500 worth of goods to go towards your project, then include that as well. So in kind, while we recognise that it doesn't necessarily contribute to the financial component of the project and the application, it actually shows us how much support you've got from within your community and how engaged you are to deliver your project. So, but having said that, sometimes it might not be relevant. So Don't be deterred or disheartened if you haven't got any in-kind contribution to the application. It may not be relevant, but if you have, we ask you to include it. So writing your application, again, read the guidelines. The guidelines are all there. There's a whole gambit of information in there, everything that you need. But if there's anything that you're not sure of, please do ask. You'll need to include your letter of support from your branch manager. And again, that will just be an email that they've flicked across to you that you just upload in the application when you're doing it. Attach your financials. This is super important. We look for, we ask that you provide full 12 months worth of financials with your application. So it might be the last financial year, for example, that you've done your financial report for your AGM, for example, you know, your income and expenditure for the year. Just send us that. If you're a new organisation and you haven't got that information, then all we ask for is bank statements from the time that you actually became active as an organisation to the time that you submit your application. And then finally for this one, just allow yourself plenty of time. There's still a few weeks on the program, so give yourself time to go through the application rather and digest it and understand it. There is actually a printable version of the application on the Nutrien page as well. So it is a PDF document. And we do encourage everyone to, you know, have a bit of a think while you're going through the application. Just open yourself a blank Word document and just type answer all your questions straight into that. Then once you're ready to actually do your application itself, then you've got all the information there and you can copy and paste it back into the system with the application, just with each question individually. So some hot tips when you're writing your application: just use clear, simple language. I know sometimes we are often checking ourselves on the jargon that we use for, you know, both internally and externally. So just be clear with what you want to do, what you're hoping to achieve, and why it's needed in your community. Use facts and provide evidence. So if you've got information from a local survey or, you know, or a community consultation that you've engaged with, you know, from within your community, then share that information with us, because it very much helps tell your story. Spell out acronyms, so which we go back to the RFFF or FRRR is us as the Foundation for Rural and Regional Renewal. So again, apologise for tripping up on acronym. Tell us your story. Like I said before, we don't know what's going on in your community, but we would love to hear what's happening. We also use this information to advocate for rural communities across the country as well. So tell us what's going on and you know what we can do to help in your project. Be specific when you're answering questions. So, you know, when it comes down to dates and times and things, if you haven't got us, you know, like I said before, if you haven't got a date, then a date range is fine. And then make it clear how you're going to use the requested money. So there is a section in the application that says FRRR funds will be used for. Just mark in there so for example, if your project is $15,000 and you've got $15,000 worth of expenditure in there, then call out what you're going to use the FRRR money on. The assessment and decision making. So assessing applications. So basically the process they come in, they go through a due diligence process and a validation process, and then while we're actually going through the assessment, we consider how the application meets the criteria for the program, and also, you know, the outcomes for the community. These applications themselves are assessed by Danielle and myself, as well as some contributors from Nutrien who you know, we basically go through all the applications that come in to get an understanding of what's happening. So, which is always a fun process actually, to understand what's happening out there, and how ingenuity that people are showing in coming up with their projects. The final decision, so once the assessments are actually done, the final decision goes through, or recommendations go through to the FRRR CEO, so our CEO, who has the final approval on the grants. So it does take a bit of time to go through. There's, you know, in writing one application, we read every word that you write on that form. And that's of every other application that comes in as well, all the supporting material that comes with it. So it does take time, but we get there in the end. And at the end of it, like I said before, the notifications will be in late October. Everybody gets a notification whether they've been successful or not. And again, for anyone who isn't successful or wasn't successful last year, you know, we'd encourage you, it's not too late to come back and talk to us for feedback. If you want to get some pointers, please do reach out. The information's there for you and we're happy to share it with you. If you're successful, you'll get an email and everything will be offered. You'll need to submit banking details and then we process the payment. And then once you've actually delivered your project, like I mentioned before, the last stage is your reporting, and we basically ask you to tell us, you know, tell us this part of your story, how you delivered your project, what changed, you know, if you had workshops, how many participants were involved, where did they come from? Did they come from just your town? Did they come from across your whole region? Did they come from across the state? You know, we really love to know how you did, what you changed, how adaptive you could be. And in considering that as well, if you do need to consider, you know, sometimes we appreciate that things come up while you're doing projects, and you know, we're very receptive to having discussions if you need to about variations in your programming. So the reporting again is all online, and it's simply accessed by through the same way that you apply. I'd encourage you all to, you know, if you were successful, go back and have a look at your application just to remind yourself on what you said you were going to do, and just do a bit of a comparison for yourself on is that what we did. Reflect on your activity and how you did it. So again, you know, sometimes things happen and things need to change. So, you know, capture all of that in your reporting. And importantly, tell your story, celebrate your success, your delivery, even sometimes just the smallest component of the delivery of a project can be, you know, huge impacts for communities. And we love to hear about that. Promote your work and your group's profile. So, you know, we love singing your praises. You know, we'd love to be a part of your story. So we really love that, you know, make us aware so that we can share. And photos and videos, we love photos and videos. So, you know, don't be afraid to share photos with us, or if you've got a video, while you can't upload a video, you can upload a link to a video that's stored somewhere. So, you know, please do share with us so that we can help tell your story and celebrate your success. And now just a few more questions. So Dan, if you want to launch that next poll for us. So how confident are you now in writing a grant application? Are you likely to apply? And has the session been helpful? We have gone a little bit over time too, sorry guys. I guess to reiterate what we said before as well, if you do have any questions about the application or you just need some advice, just give me a call. I'm more than happy to have a chat with you, you know, 5 minutes or 15. You know, we're here to help.
That's all done.
Thanks, Dan. If you, and just to move on to the next couple of slides, just to get ready to wrap up, on the FRRR website, we do actually have a a whole gambit of resources available to help you. They could just be snippets of information. They can be how-tos. There's YouTube videos as well that you can watch to help you throughout your whole application process. So to get there, if you go onto the FRRR page and go to the funding, hover over the funding tab and then click on the Grantseeker resources, that's where you'll find all of that information. Lots of different videos and things. We try and make it as easy for you as we can. So 4 things that I'd encourage you to do when you leave today. Note down your dates. 5 p.m. sharp on the 12th of August, Australian Eastern Standard Time. And there is when the round closes, and late October announcements will be made. So you'll receive a notification before the formal announcement is made, just so that you know what's going on. Subscribe to the FRRR newsletter. Same thing, you can access that through the news tab on the FRRR website. Review. So our grants use a sorting hat, so you can actually go through and it will, you know, if you can pick and choose different things on what you wanted to do, it will actually guide you to different programs that are available with FRRR. And of course, explore. So our Grantseeker resources are there to help you, and I'm also a Grantseeker resource. So please, I can't emphasize enough, if you do have any questions, please reach out. And then finally, so thank you so much again for your time. We appreciate how valuable that is. You know, $41 an hour. But just, you know, for contacts here at FRRR, like I said before, I'm your primary contact here at FRRR. So my contact phone number is on all of the marketing material that you would have seen around. And my email address is on the slide, which we'll send through to you also. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank Maddie for her time, and Maddie and Nutrien Ag Solutions for pulling together the program and supporting community as strongly as you do. And also for any of the branch managers that were registered to join that may have tapped in now. Thank you for your time as well in supporting your communities in the program. It's an important part, and we recognise what you do and the value that you do it for. So does anybody else have any questions before we finish off?
No, thank you.
You were so welcome, Jen. Well, on that note, everyone, I'll wish you all farewell. Stay safe and well.
That's all right. I didn't get a chance to answer.
No, that's okay. I can just sing out if you need to, Jen.
Yeah, shall do.
Okay.
I'm meeting with the branch manager in Bensdale tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. Well, say good day to him for me.
Shall do.
All right. Thank you so much again, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.